Hey guys, today I'm going to show you a skill that I think everybody needs to know. It's addressing an envelope. I discovered over this time that we've had away that even my older children had either forgotten or weren't sure how to address an envelope in order to send a letter or a card to somebody. And I know in this technology day and age, most everybody texts or emails. I think there's something just really sweet and personal about just addressing and sending a card in the mail or sending a letter in the mail. And I don't know about you, but when I go to the mailbox and there's something personal to me that's addressed to me, a letter or card in the mailbox, it makes me feel so super special. I love that. And we were sending cards to an older lady about a week ago, and I had all the cards laid out and the address, and some of my children were like, how do we do this? So I thought this is a really good skill for us to practice and to know how to do. And then I'm going to show you how to do that. And then I thought it'd be really neat for all of us out there watching in our Crieve Hall family, or even beyond our Crieve Hall family, if we could pick one special person this week to send a card to. So we'll talk about that in just a minute. So before we get started, you're gonna need a couple of things. You're gonna need an envelope, a blank envelope. You're gonna need to know your address, and you're gonna need to know the address of the person that you want to send a card to. Now, we're going to be practicing and we're going to be sending cards to our sweet friend Charlie in third grade, who is battling some difficulties right now, and I know could use some encouragement. So I've got his address that we're going to use in a minute. So if you want to pause the video and go gather your things, you can do that, and then we'll get started. Okay? So when you have your blank envelope, there are three things that are going to go on that envelope. The first thing, the really important thing, they're all important, but you need a postage stamp. Now, some of you may not even know what a postage stamp is. A postage stamp is a stamp that you get from the U.S. Postal Service, but nowadays you can buy them anywhere, Kroger, CVS, wherever. Your parents may have some in their desk at home. But it's a stamp it pays the cost for this letter to be delivered. So you can't just put a sticker on there or draw a little stamp on there. It has to be an official U.S. postage stamp, okay? So when you're addressing a letter, you're going to want to go ahead and put that postage stamp on your envelope first, because then your writing is not going to be covered up by that. Now, I know for a lot of us in elementary school, we are not in the fine art of writing very, very small. So if you have a really small envelope, like this one is kind of a larger envelope, but some envelopes are a lot smaller than that. So when you're addressing an envelope, you have to practice writing very small. Um, so if you wait and put your stamp on later, you might accidentally cover up some of your address, okay? So the stamp goes up in that corner first. That is the first thing. So, okay, so then the next thing you want to do is you want to go ahead and get the address of the person that you're going to write to. So on the envelope that you're going to address, you're going to put, there's going to be 3 lines. Now I drew 3 lines. If you want to draw 3 lines on your envelope to practice writing straight, that's fine. You can do that. But most envelopes don't have lines written on them. And on that line, there's 3 important things. So first of all, the person that you're writing to. And if you're writing to someone, you want to put their first and their last name. And often you'll even begin that with a Mr. or a Mrs. or a doctor or whatever their title is. But if you don't know their title, you can just put their first and last name. The second line is their street address, and that's the street they live in, but their actual number on that street. If you live in an apartment, it might have a street a number and the road or drive number, and then the apartment number might come after that, okay? So check with your parents to get that address if you need it, but I'm going to give you Charlie's address because that's who we're going to be writing to. And then on the third line, the city that that person lives in with a comma, then the state that person lives in, and then the zip code. And a zip code is a word for a 5-digit number that is specific to where each person lives. Different areas of the state have different zip code, and different states have zip codes. So that's a number you want to make sure you get on there, because that really helps the postal delivery system be able to track where your letter goes. All right, so 3 lines: name, address, city, state, and zip code. That is who you're writing to. That goes in the very center of your envelope. Then up in the left hand corner, really, really tiny, we call this the return address. This is the address and name of the person who's actually writing the letter, okay? And you're going to do the exact same thing there that you did here. The name, your name, because you're the one writing the letter, your street address with the number, and then the city, comma, state, and zip code. We call this the return address because if something should happen and there's a mistake in this letter, or for instance, you didn't have enough postage, the postal service is going to return that letter back to you, and they're going to look at this return address to know where to send it back. Okay, so those are the things that go on an envelope. So now we're going to do one together. Okay, so if you've got your envelope ready and you've got your stamp, you've got your address, and then I'm going to give you Charlie's address to use. That's pretty much all you're going to need. Okay, so let's do this one together. Now, the first thing you want to do, if you've got your stamp, make sure your parents have given you an official postage stamp. You want to take that stamp and you want to stick it in this upper right hand corner, just like that. And sometimes I accidentally put it upside down, and it's really, it'll still get delivered, but just make sure before you put it down it's right side up, okay? And postage stamps are really cool. They have all kinds of important things on them, pictures on them. I love Christmas postage stamps because they have Christmas scenes on there, but you can just see almost anything on a postage stamp, okay? So make sure you stick that down first. All right, now I have lines, 3 lines written on my envelope. If you want to lightly draw 3 lines on your envelope, you can. Or if you want to practice writing really tiny on a piece of paper first before you go and put it on your envelope, you can. But just remember, your address that you're writing to, it can't take up the whole space of the envelope. We really have to practice writing that and centering that right here, okay? So like I said, we're going to be sending cards and letters to Charlie just to encourage him as he's stuck at home like we all are, but just also as he's battling his illness. We want to encourage him and let him know that we're thinking and praying about him. And we'll talk about what goes inside your letter in just a second. Right now, we're going to address, all right? So remember, what goes on the first line? The name of who we're writing to. So we're going to write Charlie Fogarty, okay? So on this line, and you notice I'm in the center and I'm practicing my smaller handwriting. And do you notice how I am capitalizing the first letter of his name, the first letter of his last name? Because that's a proper noun. That's a very specific person. That's not just a boy. That's a very special, specific boy, just like you all are. Your names are capitalized too. We're proper nouns, okay? Then we're going to move right underneath that C. You're going to see how all these things kind of line up right under each other. We're going to write his street address with his number of his specific drive first. All right, so he is 5346. So I'm going to start my 5 underneath the C. 5346. He lives on Anchorage Drive. Did you notice how I capitalized the A in Anchorage? Because that's the proper noun. It's the specific name of a street, okay? Now, drive, we're going to do what's called an abbreviation. I'm going to do a capital D and a little R and a period. That means I don't have to write the whole word drive. I'm going to abbreviate it, but notice how my abbreviation is written. Capital D, little r, and a period. Okay? And that's all for that line. Excuse me. And then my last line is going to be the city, state, and zip code where he lives. Okay? Because remember, this is who it's to. So he lives in Nashville. So under the C, under the 5, I'm going to come right down here. And I'm going to do a capital N for Nashville because, again, it's a proper noun. It's the name of a specific city. And I'm going to spell Nashville. And then I'm going to put a comma because we put a comma between cities and states. Now, look what I do with Tennessee. I'm not going to write Tennessee all the way out. I'm going to abbreviate it. Every state has an abbreviation, and it's 2 capital letters. The abbreviation for Tennessee is a capital T and a capital N, okay? And then the last thing we're going to do is we're going to put his zip code. And if you remember, that is the 5-digit number that is specific to the area where this person lives, the person we're writing to. So we're going to do 37220, okay? So notice it's right here in the center of my envelope. This is all lined up in one line. I'm not writing over here. I'm not writing way over here, up here, or down here. It's all in the center, okay? If you need your parents to help you practice that small writing, absolutely, that's fine, okay? Now we've got to write even smaller when we do our return address. Now, remember, the return address is the person who's writing the letter. That's you, or that's me right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here and I'm going to practice doing it with my return address, because I'm the one that's going to be writing this letter. Now, the neat thing about this up here is I actually could probably just put my initial. So I'm going to put M, my first name is Melissa. I'm going to put an M period, and I'm going to put my last name. And again, it starts with a capital P for Phillips. That way I can write it a little bit smaller. All right, and then I'm going to come under that M, and I'm going to write my street address, starting with my street number. Okay, so mine is 5338 Overton. I'm going to capitalize that O, Overton. And then I'm going to abbreviate road so I can get it even shorter. And I do that with a capital R, a little d, and a period. Okay? Again, writing really super small, but keeping this lined up. All right, underneath the M and the 5, I'm going to come right down here. Now, guys, remember, you're not writing this because you don't live in my house, okay? You're writing your address here, okay? The person who writes the letter, that's their address that goes here, your address. Okay, I'm going to come under here. I'm going to put a capital N for Nashville. And I'm writing small. You remember what comes after the Nashville? That's right, a comma. And then I'm going to abbreviate Tennessee, capital T, capital N, and then the zip code. And Charlie and I have the same zip code because we don't live very far apart, okay? So now, this is who it's from. It's from me. This is who it is to. All right, the last thing we want to talk about is what are we going to put inside, okay? This is just the envelope. The best part is what goes inside. That's our letter that we write to somebody, okay? So when you send something in the mail and you're putting just one stamp on there, that stamp says that this is going to pay for an average letter weight to go to somebody, or an average card weight to go to somebody, okay? So I'm thinking if I'm writing a letter, I could do like a page, and then maybe I could draw a picture. So maybe 2 pieces of paper would be a good size of a weight that goes inside here, or maybe 3 even could work. If you get too heavy with what goes inside, then you have to have more than one stamp to do that. I'm thinking about like if you've ever gotten a birthday card or an invitation to a birthday party or a wedding, those cards and things that go in there usually can be supported with just one stamp. So if you're doing a card, you should be okay, and then you're going to stuff that in the envelope. We can't put things like toys and really thick things or objects in the letter, because then it makes the letter too heavy, and that one stamp is not going to be enough to support the cost of that. So anyway, I hope that this has helped you in learning how to address an envelope. I hope that everybody will take the time over the next week or two while you're at home to maybe send a letter or a card of encouragement to Charlie. And after you do that, maybe you could write and send a letter to a relative that lives somewhere where you can't go and visit because we're all staying safe in our homes. Maybe you could write to a grandparent or a cousin or an aunt or an uncle, or maybe write to your teacher or write to someone that's in your class that your parents can help you find an address to. There's nothing like getting that very special personal message in the mail from somebody that we know and care about. So stay at home, keep your hands good and washed, and I hope you're having a great time with your families. Talk to you again soon.